There
Two.
on my end. And there we go. All right. Brent, first things first, name and title.
Brent Jacobson, State Assembly Representative for the 87th Assembly District.
All right. So Brent, I guess first off, before we dive into Braden's law, what was the feeling today on the floor at the assembly as you guys were getting business underway for the first time since the tragedy in Minnesota over the weekend?
I think an overwhelming feeling of sadness that um, things like that can happen in our country, especially to people at this low of a level in the grand scheme of things with government. Certainly you think of people like the president, higher elected officials under threat, but we're state representatives. We live right in the community, and we have families. Many of us, some of us, small children, right in the communities. So, this is not a. You have something like this happen. This is not a Republican or Democrat thing. This is a human being thing, and uh, we are united in sadness, I think, down here in Madison for the families of those lost over in Minnesota, and we grieve with them and we pray for them.
And I know at one point, I know there was extra security requested for the session today. Did you notice that on the way into the office?
I did notice a larger than usual, presence of law enforcement than we typically have here in the Capitol on a day-to-day basis.
Now I know you like me, you've got some roots in Minnesota. Do you recall? Were you there um, the when the speaker was serving in Minnesota? I mean, did you? I guess you wouldn't have crossed paths, but do you remember uh, being in Minnesota at the same time that she was serving?
I would have just been leaving when she started her elected office in 2004, and she didn't, as I understand from some of Speaker Voss's comments today, she took over the speakership in 2019. So
Hmm.
I'm dating myself, but I was long gone by 2019.
Well, I realized I was in Minnesota. I just don't remember anything that she brought to the floor. I mean, I wasn't for some of those years I wasn't really paying attention. So don't worry, I'm dating myself as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
Speaker Voss spoke highly of her today. Knew her well through his work as a speaker and the national conference, and described her as very effective and dedicated to her position.
Now, onto Braden's law today. Quick votes, from what I understand. You didn't even really have to count the ballots to get this passed on the floor, right?
Yeah, passed on a voice vote, which when we pass things on a voice vote, that means you are not hearing any opposition. And this passed on voice vote. And I will say, and I said this to the family afterwards when I met semi privately with them in the assembly parlor, that in my short time down here, this is the quickest thing I've ever seen happen in Madison. Braden, lost his life just earlier this year, and here we are in June, and you've already had a committee hearing, a committee vote, and passage by one of two chambers of the legislature. So this stuff doesn't happen that fast down here. You have bills that take multiple sessions to get fine tuned. So, and the credit to that is on Braden's family, especially his mother, who has been just a tremendous advocate. She is here every step of the way. Even if it's a 5-minute committee vote, she and the family were here, and I was just very touched that we're at this point in the process. But I made it clear to her that that's because of her advocacy to get this done, and because how passionate and strongly she feels about it, and it needs to be done. This is serious organized crime throughout the world. As I mentioned on the assembly floor today, there were there's something like 20 suicides across the country reported. I would have to have my notes in front of me if that was just last year, but it's in the recent past of those who take their lives. And these people prey. This happens to adults, but these people prey particularly on young children who think that there's no way out, who think they're in serious trouble. If they don't pay money, then they don't have money, then they take their own lives. You know, the next piece we want to work on with Representative Mursaw and Stefan have talked about this is an education bill on this. Some schools are already doing it, so kids know what to look out for. So kids know they shouldn't be afraid. By stepping into something like this, they need to reach out, report it, and because there's an outlet there, and they don't need to feel that they have no choice but to take their own lives. But the point of Braden's law was to say, and this is a wave across the country that's starting, and we've just joined it, to say, don't even think about touching Wisconsin, because if you are going to end up being subject to our criminal statute, you're facing up to 60 years. This is Class B felony. It's about as serious as it gets. So,
Yeah, and I know that it was that a change. I mean, you had gone for a Class A felony right away. Is that kind of a change that you had to make along the way?
no, just a correction on that. We made a change, but actually, it got the change we made actually made the penalty far more serious than it was. We had started off with felony murder, where the individual could be charged with felony murder. Now, that sounds serious, and it is, but there are more serious crimes on our books. Felony murder really just means a murder that is the substantial result of a felony, separate felony that's been committed. But the number of years on a sentence with that was like a third of what a Class B felony is. So we had some members concerned, I think, understandably so, about labeling it felony murder, but we're comfortable with leveling a harsh penalty. And so I feel in amending the bill through the process, we got the best of both worlds. We, addressed the concerns that some members had, but ended up with a more serious penalty in the end. So,
Absolutely. So then the next step for this obviously goes to the state Senate. Any indication yet on what dates those are going to be?
no, the Senate has to start the process sort of from square one at this point. I feel like perhaps the Senate was waiting to see how we could get this bill fine tuned in the Assembly and the amount of support it would have, which we did the fine tuning. The support was tremendous on this from both sides of the aisle. So I think the Senate is going to want to take this up. I see no reason why they wouldn't. And we're certainly going to do everything we can on our end in the Assembly to encourage them to do so. I will be there to testify to the extent I'm asked to. And I know that the family, they're not done. You know, they intend to be here for the same steps along the way on the Senate side until the day this is signed by the governor. And bless them for that.
Mm-hmm. And I have reached out to the Governor Evers' office. I just checked. I don't have a comment back yet. But again, as you've said, I would expect that this isn't going to get much resistance along the way, right?
No, I mean, you had Democrats that signed on. You had Democrats that spoke up in committee in support of it. It got no criticism in committee. And I mean, we worked on and had the support of the Attorney General on this, who's on the other side of the aisle. So this is one I see no reason why Governor Evers would sign this into law.
All right. Anything you want to add there, Cooper?
Well, I think you pretty much covered it good.
All right. Anything else, Brent, then?
Nothing for me. Thank you guys for the opportunity and for covering this story.
Absolutely. All righty. I will